do it 4 times.
Yeah, you did. I'll fix it down.
I can do it by myself. I did it yesterday.
Attention in the infield. Attention in the infield, please. We have several farm stock haulers that need to be moved. We need to be able to maneuver some of our vehicles around in the infield. We have several, I think 3 to be specific, that need to be moved. Would you please make sure that those get moved so that we can make our way through the infield and keep this show on schedule this evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Charlie Swartz Memorial Pull right here in Stark County. Good to have each and every one of you here. And if you knew Charlie Swartz, as some of us did, you knew that his absolute favorite time of the year was this tractor pull. Where did you find him? You found him back and forth with the golf cart in front of everything that was going on, making sure he knew what was going on in all areas. Where
1, 1. 1, 2. 3, microphone 1.
Please remove your hats and remember to take it with me if you would, please. Freedom is for the free. We live in the land of the free because this is the home of the brave. As we stand and pay tribute to this country of ours, we need to remember that. What we gather because of remember military still deployed around the world, around this great country of ours. Veterans, campus organizers, given us the freedom to assemble as we have here this evening. It is the veteran, not the lawyer, that's given us the right to a fair trial. It is the veteran, not the politician, that's given us the right to vote. It is the veteran that salutes the flag. Sadly, it is the veteran that sleeps beneath it. All gave some gave all. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Rourke and our national anthem.
If I went left, I would have done that.
Thank you, Andy Rourke. Job well done. It's always nice to have that, especially when you can find somebody from a local community that does it so well. Thank you, Andy.
We're ready. Well, we are live streaming to the world on Full Pull Live. Once again, here in Canton, Ohio at the Stark County Fair. Dan Mayer joined by NTPA Hall of Famer Dave Grimm. Dave, thanks for coming once again here.
It's a pleasure to be here. We had a fabulous show last night. Great classes. The track held up very, very well. Some very good competitive pulling, and we're back here to do it all over again tonight, and it's almost, we're hoping for a duplicate tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 5 great classes of competition. We've got 3 Grand National classes here. We'll start with the lightweight super stock tractors. We'll move on into the lightweight modifieds, and then we'll conclude the Grand National classes with the pro stocks. And as you said, Dave, what great competition last night, and hats off to that track crew. They've been working here since the stock tractors ended here this afternoon and getting this track ready for tonight's competition.
Yeah, it's a real power track. You're going to see a lot of weight out there in the front of the tractors, and of course that indicates the tougher a track it is, the more weight they're going to have out on the front. And just very good pulling. And we also saw a lot of the pullers had to make some big decisions last night of where to spot the sled, especially in our third class, which we'll get to a little bit later on. But the track held up very well, and I think every puller that's pulling can feel good that no matter where they pulled, they had a very fair chance to win the class.
And speaking of our track here tonight, we got it lined out to 350 feet, approximately 40 feet wide, or as wide as your normal two-lane highway. You'll see the white lines each side of that track. You touch one of those white lines, you will be disqualified. So our test puller here tonight in our 6,200-pound lightweight super stock class can be Rex Kuhn out of Morristown, Indiana, with the Letterbuck John Deere 7R250. He is going to get us started here tonight. And boy, Dave, we have saw a shake-up in the points from last night's event. So we'll talk about that here as this class moves along. But here we go with the Letterbuck.
Pulling is underway at the Stark County Fairgrounds, Canton, Ohio.
So just like we saw last night with these lightweight super stocks, front end comes up now 6,200 pounds, not a whole lot of weight to play with. 505 cubic inches underneath the hood. Now they're allowed up to 4 turbochargers. Now turbocharger, nothing more than a big old air compressor, runs off exhaust pressure, and they're allowed up to 4 of them, and they'll run those big 30.5 rear tires. But when it's all said and done, we're looking about 4,000 horsepower, and that's just unbelievable.
It really is. Out of these stock block motors, it really is unbelievable. A lot of power there. Good pulling. That was a great pull, even though the front end was coming up. When that front end comes up, you're losing some of your drawbar, and you're not able to get quite as good a pull as you'd like. But that was a straight pull, and that was a good pull. It'll be interesting to see whether he takes the distance or not, or whether he drops.
So 3:14 and 94 will be the distance here for Rex Kuhn. Now, Rex last night finished number 2 in the class and really gained some momentum in the point standings. Now, last night we came in with Colton Whitworth being our points leader by half a point over Marcus Wetson. And after last night's show, Marcus Wetson took the points lead by a half a point. But then we also have to talk about the number 3 and 4 tractors, Brian Bowles and this Letterbuck of Rex Kuhn are only 3.5 points behind. So they gained a little bit in the point standings, and coming into tonight, I should say 4.5 points. So they gained a little bit of ground here, so they're only 4.5 points behind Marcus Wetson, our current points leader. And Dave, we also should talk about this is the last event for the light super stocks before they go to the Enderley, where they're only going to take 5 to run for that championship.
Oh man, this is right down to the wire. Then everybody wants to get to the Enderley, but only the best of the cream of the crop will get there. That'll be in Urbana, Ohio later on this year.
So as we see the Letterbuck here heading back to the start line, looks like going to turn that run down as our test puller. So Rex going to head back to the start line here. And big decision there, Dave. 3:14.94. We saw that front end come up right at the start of that pull. And, of course, you lose that leverage on that drawbar. What that does, that makes that sled just that much harder to pull.
Right. And, by the way, talking about sleds, we want to salute our weight transfer machine that's being used here tonight, as it has been all weekend. It's the on-the-mark sled out of Greenville, Ohio, over in Darke County, in the western part of Ohio, just right near the Indiana border. This is a terrific sled. It will allow the tractors to get up and get running, get a good speed down the track, and when they get toward the end, near the finish line, it'll put the hammer on them as that weight transfer box comes up. We're not really concerned too much about what the weight transfer weighs. It can weigh anywhere from 25,000 to 70,000 pounds. All we want to do is put on a good show for you folks that are watching, and that's what it's all about when it comes to pulling. So everybody pulls the same weight transfer if it's in the same gear. And, of course, we just had a test puller there, Rex Kuhn from Morristown, Indiana, and he has dropped and will come back a little bit later on. And test pullers have that because they're in a unique position as pulling number 1 in the class. They are the test puller.
So here we go with Brandon Phillips, our number 2 hook here in the class, as he'll have the straight jacket, John Deere. Oh, look out. Whoa. Now, Dave, we didn't see this last night here with this light super stock class. We saw those front end come up and hang down the track here. but right away.
I think what we saw last night when somebody did that was in our third class. But I don't think we saw it in the light super stocks. He got tumbled around there pretty good.
Yeah, we'll take a look here on the replay here as Brandon Phillips here, this John Deere running out of Vine Grove, Kentucky, 172.01. And right there, Dave, we kind of saw that tractor one wheel. And when that happens, boy, hang on. Things can get pretty wild. Now, we talked about the 6,200 pounds, not a whole lot of weight to play with to keep these front ends down on these tractors. So 172.01 will be the distance here for Brandon Phillips.
And he's going to have to take that distance because he went past the 100-foot mark. Yeah, that is a tough break, but that right tire really bit into the track, and the left one didn't, and all of a sudden it whipped him to the left. And that's a tough break here tonight. And, pullers, they come from all over. We've got pullers from about 7 different states here at Canton, Ohio for this championship pull. And, you come all this distance, you drive a long ways, you got a lot of sleepless time on the road, and then you come and you got a beautiful tractor and you hook on and you go 172, and all of a sudden you make something goes wrong on the track. That's it. You don't have another time for you to come back unless you are the test puller.
Yeah, one of the unique things about pulling, got to make sure you have that weight set right, tire pressures, because there's no practice, there's no qualifying. You go out there and you get one shot at it, and unfortunately, as we see Brandon making his way down the track here, definitely not what he was looking for here tonight with that straight jacket out of Vine Grove, Kentucky. So we'll go back to the start line here as we'll have Colton Whitworth with the Yield Express. Now, yesterday he came in as the Grand National points leader in the points and left last night in the number 2 spot here. So he's got to make up a little bit of ground here, defending Grand National champion here with this John Deere 4020. So the NKC to Yield Express. First of 2 tractors we'll see in competition here for the Whitworth team. As we see Dad out front, looks like Dad may be driving the other tractor here tonight. We'll have to wait and see. He's on our lineup sheet here as driving the bin buster here tonight. So Dad looks like he's going to get behind the wheel so Colton can concentrate on this Yield Express here tonight. So our number 2 hook officially in our lightweight super stock class as we get ready to go here. Right now the mark to beat 172.01 as Brandon Phillips and the straight jacket, our current leader.
We're going to have a new leader, no question about it.
Yes, we are.
And that was a beautiful pull. We've only had 3 tractors go so far, but of course that's the best run of the evening in this class.
So Colton Whitworth lays down the gauntlet here, number 2 in Grand National points. Says, hey guys, come and get me. At tough running John Deere out of Worthington, Missouri, the northern part of the Show Me State. Yes, we'll get the numbers in here for him. So 340.03 will now be the new mark to beat in our light super stock class. 340.03 for Colton Whitworth.
And we talked about a little bit ago that they don't have any weight to play with in this class. The tractors cannot weigh over 6,200 pounds here in this light super stock class, and they don't have any weight to play with because they've got it all on the front of the tractor. Now, if we didn't have a power track tonight, let's say the track was a little sandier, a little looser, they'd have to take some of that weight off the front and put it on the back. But the tougher the track you're on, the more weight you put out in front. In this case, everything they have is now on the front. So that really means that this is a great power track here in Canton, Ohio. And we also saw last night, and we're going to say this several times tonight, that our track crew here doing the grading, the packing, and the rolling just did a marvelous job last evening. Absolutely give them an A+. And it provided an opportunity for all of the pullers in the class, no matter when they pulled, early, in the middle, or late in the class, a really fair and equitable chance to do a good job.
As we take a look here on the screen, we see the Letterbuck team doing everything they can to get that tractor cooled down. He was our test puller, turned down that run of 3:14.94, so he is going to come on back here later in the class. So they're going to get that tractor cooled down, and we'll see that a little bit later on here in the field, as we should have Terry Blackbird up next here out of Shullsburg, Wisconsin, doing the driving of the Excessive Force tractor, of course owned by Mike Chiswick out of Newton, Wisconsin. Now, years ago, Team Chiswick used to run 3 of these light super stocks, 3 of the heavy super stock alcohol tractors. They kind of cut back a little bit. They've got 2 of them in the light class now, 2 in the heavy class, but always tough tractors.
So the distance to beat, 340.03 feet. It's an excellent run, but I think there's some tractors back there that can do it tonight.
Yeah, so as we take a look here at our lineup, Terry Blackburn will be up next. He'll be followed by Brian Bowles with that Ultra Eagle. That's the New Holland tractor in our field. And then Larry Phillips with Extremely Insane will be our next 3 coming up here by the luck of the draw. That's how the order is determined here in the sport of pulling. By the luck of the draw, lowest number goes first, so on and so forth. And Dave, we talked a little bit about that last night. You know, sometimes that early number will help you, and sometimes the later number will help you.
And it usually averages out. When you pull as much as they do from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, you're going to get some early draws, some late draws, some in the middle, but it will average out over the year. So you've got to be a consistent puller to really be the top championship puller. And frankly, we've got great pullers here at this show. They're all very good.
All right, Terry Blackburn, a 5-time Grand National Light Superstock champion, and he was having a little bit of control issues out there.
Well, I think he had to get on the brakes because he didn't want to get pulled over there like we saw a couple of tractors ago, and he wanted to make sure he kept it between the white lines, and he didn't want to end up down there at the 150-foot mark. It's a good pull, but it's going to be short here tonight from our leader, the Colton Whitworth tractor from Worthington, Missouri.
So it looks like to be right about that number 2 spot here for Terry Blackburn as he makes his run here tonight with the Excessive Force tractor. Now, early on in the season, we've seen him piloting the Considered Armed and Dangerous tractor, and him and Cody Chiswick have kind of done the switch here as we've seen Terry behind the wheel here of the Excessive Force tractor the last couple hooks here for the light superstock class. So 313 and 92 will officially be the distance. 313 and 92. And
it'll put him number 2.
Number 2, and using the laser to measure here tonight as we do at all Grand National pulls. Laser set up at the end of the track. They'll shoot the laser at the starting line as well as at the finish line, and we will measure up to 1,000th of a foot in competition here tonight if we do need that extra decimal point. So 313.92 and a 5 if you want to add that in.
Don't have any more ties in the business like we had many years ago.
Yes.
The laser takes care of that. It's accurate measurement. It also speeds up the show, too, and it's been used for quite a few years now.
And remember, Dave used to stake out the track and then run the line across with the tape measure.
You'd have a crew out there with their tape measure, and you run the rope across, and that really took some time to do that. And with the laser, it speeds up the show considerably.
So we also got to talk about, each competitor has that option where you put the sled on the starting line. And Dave, boy, did we see them move that sled around last night. Now, the first couple classes, we kind of stuck around that middle part of the track, but boy, once the pro stock came, we were left, right, back and forth.
It was our 3rd class last night, which will be the same tonight, the 10,000-pound pro stock. And they moved it all over the track. And it really helped when they started moving it, especially on the right-hand side of the track. It really helped a lot of the pullers from about halfway through the class on.
And we'll also be joined here tonight by Chris DeVota Kelly, and Chris has got a report for us down trackside.
So what is the draw of tractor pulling? I walked past the grandstands. I heard people say, I like the way they smell, I like the way they sound. But for the men and women who are about to strap into these steel horses, it is all about the way they feel. They get about 10 seconds to pilot a rocket ship, and they get one chance, one pass to be a hero. Whose turn is it tonight?
All right, so once again, glad to have Chris DeVota Kelly down trackside. She'll be doing interviews with our pullers as well as some trackside reports, as well as we go with Brian Bowles, the only New Holland in our class here tonight, here in Light Super. Dave, he hit the nail on the mark here tonight.
An excellent run, right down pretty much the middle of the track. I don't think he had to touch the brakes too much. He came off the line very smooth and really hammered that power, and he locked up very well. And if he doesn't take the lead, he'll be number 2, I think, tonight.
Yeah, comes to us out of Southwest Missouri here. Mount Vernon, Missouri, calls home, and financial advisor, Dave, during the week, tractor puller on the weekend. We got all different types in the sport.
That's an interesting point you make on what they do back home, because if you would go back to the 1950s or 1960s, most of the pullers really came off the farm. And this was their hobby back then. But throughout the years, we've seen the machinists, different kinds of jobs that these guys had. Not everybody is agriculturally related in this business, even though that's the roots of it back in the 1950s when tractor and truck pulling tractor pulling got started. The trucks didn't come until later on. And in the early days, I remember going to the county fair with my father, and they would have this slow-moving sled behind the tractor, and the men would step on the sled, and that's what provided the weight on the sled. And, of course, that became dangerous, of course, especially if you'd had a cold one on a hot afternoon at the show or at the fair. And once in a while, a guy might fall off, and it was dangerous a little bit as the tractors got more speed. And the first mechanical weight transfer machine came along in the late 1960s. And that's when things really started to propel the sport forward in a more professional way. And throughout the years, we've had many weight transfer machines designed and built and improved every year. And we have the best, of course, nowadays. They allow the tractors to get off the starting line at a very fast pace. And then when they get down here near the end of the track, they put the hammer right on, and that weight comes forward, and it will stop you. It will stop you.
And, of course, Dave, the old sleds, the rolling weight to a dragging weight, we don't see that anymore. Like you said, they just let them run, and they stop them there at the end of the track, and makes for a much, much better show.
Oh, yeah, the show has improved considerably over the years.
So the second half of the Phillips team up next here is we'll see Dad Larry Phillips, Vine Grove, Kentucky. Got a big construction company there just south of the Louisville area that they own and operate. We saw the John Deere, a wild ride there for Brandon Phillips, as he went 172.01, got that front end way up in the air, as Larry looking to make a good run here with that Case International MX 210 out of Vine Grove, Kentucky. Finished up number 8 last night. Would definitely like to improve on that here tonight.
We got a John Deere in first place right now. We got the New Holland in second place, and here comes the Case IH.
For Larry Phillips. Now he was a little bit over to that right side, right of center out here. We've seen the last couple, the two lead distances, a little bit in the middle to the left side here, just a little bit, not a whole lot. And kind of like we saw last night, basically.
Most everybody last evening in this class ran pretty much in the middle of the class, maybe a little bit of right of center.
So we'll get the numbers in here for Larry Phillips. As we see the whole shot here is Carson pulling. We talk about the whole shot, how fast you get that sled moving in that first 50 to 75 feet. And he got it going pretty good here. 326 even will be the distance for Larry Phillips. We'll put him in that number 3 spot here. So hook number 5 out of our 11 signed up for competition here tonight. Of course, we'll have Rex Kuhn coming on back, our test puller with the letter buck, as he turned down that run of 3:14.94 to get us started here tonight. So a good run there for Larry Phillips. And we'll have Adam Spiegelberg out of Waiawega, Wisconsin, up next with the Detonator Black, Scott Whitworth's Bin Buster.
Say that name and the town he's from 3 times real fast.
Dave, I could not say Waiawega for the longest time. And it's funny because I do a couple events up there in Wisconsin, and one of the announcers I actually work with up in Wisconsin, he sent me, they actually have a bread that's called Waiawega, and it's spelled out Y-O, and then Wega. He sent that to me so I could say it right. So
it's a little bit like another town up there west of Milwaukee called Oconomowoc, Wisconsin.
Yes, the Jaskies, right?
It took me years to get that right.
All right, we'll send it down trackside as Krista's got a report here with Cody Chizik.
Cody Chizik not in the seat yet of his tractor, considered armed and dangerous. On the start line, and what are you watching for?
Just how hard everybody's coming off the line. I think you just gotta, if you can get it underneath control and just stay right of center in the track, I think you'll get it there. But it's just tractors like to wander a little bit, so that's what we're fighting right now. So
thanks, Cody.
Yep, thank you.
All right, so we'll go back to the start line here with Adam Spiegelberg, and Now, last night we saw this tractor make a hard move to the left side. Actually broke a planetary on this tractor. They were back there in the pits working on it. And, of course, planetary rear ends in these tractors, that'll actually multiply what you see go through the rear wheels, out to the rear wheels.
It's an all-black, solid black Case IH. Adam Spiegelberg, Weyawega. I just had to say that. Wisconsin. We've got pullers from Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, Wisconsin, Ohio, North Carolina, Minnesota. They're from all over the country here in Canton, Ohio.
Man, that tractor just does not want to cooperate for Adam here. Thought they had the problem fixed there, but with the planetary. But
how much damage do you see on front ends when we get into situations like that, Dan, over the years?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit.
When they start lifting that amount of weight up into the air and it's coming down, then it comes up and comes down again, that's when you get nervous about that you may break some of those front end parts off.
And we'll talk about one of the safety items that came from that point is the ski bars underneath the wheels that protect. Years ago we'd see those wheels slam down. We may see a wheel head down our way or such. They've got them ski bars right now to take a lot of that energy when they slam down on the front like that. So 2:35.04, unfortunately not the run that Adam was looking for. They thought they had all the bugs worked out. Now last Friday night in Wellington, Ohio, they lost a turbocharger with this tractor right off the starting line. So it's been a bad couple weeks here for the Spiegelberg team. So they're looking to regroup for 2026, as this will be the last event if you're not in the top 5 for points here with the Light Supers, as this is hook number 11 out of the 12 for 2025. And the amazing part about that, they didn't have any rainouts for this class all year. So
terrific. Our leader is still the Yield Express John Deere, is in first place at 340.03, and number 2 is the Alter Ego New Holland in second at 335.95.
So going to move right along here with our next John Deere as we got the second half of the Whitworth pulling team out of Worthington, Missouri, as this is going to be Dad Scott Whitworth doing the driving here at the Bin Buster. Once again, another John Deere. Now, Scott's an interesting story, as he's got a heavyweight super stock alcohol tractor and actually picked up his first Grand National win this year out in Rockwell, Iowa. But he comes to the sport sprint car racing. He ran sprint cars years ago, actually made it into the Knoxville Nationals down there in Knoxville, Iowa, but since they've kind of gone tractor pulling here, and they're working their way towards a Rick Hendrick type operation out there. They've got 4 or 5. They've got another Light Super being built. So Scott had said we really don't want it to turn out that way, but it just kind of happened. We got this one. We got that one. We're building one. So he says we got to get rid of a couple tractors.
I would say they've caught the bug in a big way.
Yes, they have. Big farming operation out there. And son Colton actually is big into the spray drones out there in Missouri. He works with those. As we take a look here at the John Deere 5020, the Bin Buster looking to overtake his son right now. 340.03, the mark to beat here in our Light Super Stock class. Once again, a Saturday night here in Canton, Ohio. Full Pull Live. Dan Mayer and Dave Grimm bringing you all the action from this great event here at the Stark County Fairgrounds. Just ran out of stuff there down the left-hand sideline here for Scott Whitworth and the Midbuster.
Well, 340 is our leading distance. The distance to beat, he's going to come up considerably short. Just didn't have the power right there at the end.
So we'll get the numbers in here for Scott Whitworth and the Midbuster as we move along in our lightweight super stock classes. We'll have hook number 8 coming up. Our current national points leader going to be Marcus Wedelson, as we get the distance here of 3:03 and 98. So 3:03.98 for Scott Whitworth here tonight in our lightweight superstock class. So Marcus Wetson, Postville, Iowa, the northeast corner of the Hawkeye State, gunpowder and lead. As last night we saw Marcus finish in that number 4 spot in a tough class of light supers. As we mentioned, came in second in the points and came out yesterday with that 4th place finish, just a half a point ahead here into that race for that championship. So this is going to be a big one here for Marcus. We talked to him earlier today on our Countdown to Pull Time show, and we kind of asked him about, do you have any superstitions out there? And Marcus says, you know, when I started pulling years ago, he says, I used to. He says, now it's become old hat. Really don't have any superstitions. So take a look here at the Case International MX 190.
You know, watching the track crew out there, we've made mention of this, the great job they're doing with packing and grading the track. You would think the people that are watching that as many tractors have pulled even in this class so far, you would just think that starting line would really get torn up. But the track crew can go back and resurface that and pack it and grade it and make it very fair for everybody. It's amazing what they're able to do with the equipment out there.
Yeah, and hats off to Jim Miller and his crew building the track here this weekend here at the Stark County Fair, and has done so here for the last so many years.
And there's real expertise in building a track, too. This track was torn up late this afternoon. They came in with the scarifiers. They really ripped it up. They got some water into it. You have to know how much water to put into it because you don't want a wet track. You don't want a real dry track. They know just the kind of track that the pullers like to pull on, and this is a power track in Canton, Ohio for this championship NCPA pull.
And Dave, to add to that, some of the competitors were actually nervous about the track conditions. They thought they might have to change some gears, going to be different from last night, but it looked like it came out pretty good here tonight. So I think we're looking at about the same kind of conditions we had last night.
I would agree.
So Marcus Wetson, 2013 Grand National Champion, looking to put another one on his mantle here.
Tractor is called Gunpowder and Lead.
Oh, my. Ooh. A big flame up right there. Marcus Wetson, boy, did not want to see that. Oh, man. And looks like we got parts out the bottom there, Dave.
Oh, boy.
Now, unfortunately, this is how the season started for Marcus Wetson up in Tomah, Wisconsin, right off the starting line. And we can see down there we still got some parts and pieces there, and we got a flame up there out the bottom. Just really hate to see that.
So it appears the motor has come apart, ladies and gentlemen. We've got parts on the track. This is a serious breakage. And you can imagine with 4 turbochargers on there. Dan, you want to guess how much pressure there might be in a tractor like this?
Boy, yeah, that'd be,
It's just amazing the pressure that they're putting into those cylinders and pushing down on those pistons. And something let loose. And it's not going to be a pleasant evening for them.
Yeah, so there we can see some great camera work here from our track crew out here. And taking a look here at the underneath the tractor there as we'll bring in, still got some fire going. Yeah, that is just a tough break there for Marcus Wetson. Gunpowder and lead. You can see the dejection there as he throws the gloves off. Unfortunately, after his run here tonight. As we take a look here at the bottom of the tractor there, and we see lots of oil, lots of alcohol on the track.
They're going to have to go out now and scrape that residue off the track, get some shovels out there and clean that up. That'll take just a little bit to get down to a little bit drier dirt. You don't want to have a lot of that alcohol. And
looks like maybe a piece of block there, Dave, as we see the red there, the red paint. Yeah,
it's a serious breakage, and this will be an expensive repair. And we've even got the Canton Fire Department here with their crew. Our leader continues to be The Colton Whitworth tractor from Worthington, Missouri. The Yield Express John Deere is in the lead at 340.03 feet. Currently number 2 is our New Holland tractor, Alter Ego, Brian Bowles out of Mount Vernon, Missouri. And those are our number 1 and number 2 pullers in this class.
So going to take a little bit of time here, get that cleanup taken care of. And Dave, let's touch on a little bit. Of course, special guest here, Hall of Famer here with the NTPA. And Dave, how did you get started with the NTPA?
Well, I was fresh out of Ohio State. I'd been an agricultural communications major way back in the early 1970s. And I learned that the National Tractor Pullers Association, which was located in Upper Sandusky at that time, was looking for a public relations director. And my mother had grown up on the family farm and near that town, and I knew a few people in town, and I thought, well, this could be interesting. They were looking for somebody to design and edit their magazine and take pictures and do press releases and call on sponsors and things like that. And I had an opportunity to work. My boss was the first executive director of the NTPA, Ed Hart. It really became a legend in this business, and of course is in the Hall of Fame, and was really the guy that really helped get tractor pulling organized in this country. He did a marvelous job, and I'm so glad I had an opportunity to work with him. And it was a great job. I enjoyed it, and came back then a little bit later and became the executive director of the NTPA. And I really learned a lot about marketing and sponsorships and dealing with fairs and fair boards and general managers, because tractor pulling at that time, I would say maybe 80% of our events were going to county and state fairs. So it really became a great opportunity to get on the ground floor of tractor and truck pulling, motorsports. We dealt with NHRA. We ended up going to the SEMA show. We took tractors into the SEMA show. And of course, we were the rule-making organization for the NTPA, but we were also working on with promoters and producing events. And it was really an exciting time for the sport.
And, of course, Dave, during a lot of people call the heyday of tractor and truck pulling. The big major sponsors came on board. We saw that, years ago with Wrangler and Redman and Copenhagen Skoll came on board, and, all those big sponsors.
And we got into television. That's when we put our first ESPN show together. That was about 1980. We also had a show called CBS Sports Spectacular, Diamond P Sports. It was doing NHRA's drag racing series at that time. Also got involved in tractor and truck pulling. Things were really growing. They were really booming, and we were going all the way to the West Coast. And then the West Coast pulling got going pretty good out there. And then the big change was we took tractors, a couple of tractors and a weight transfer machine all the way to Holland. It was approximately, I think it was around 1980 or 1981. I forget the date. But it was a very exciting time for pulling. And I mentioned Ed Hart a little bit ago, but I give Ed and the board of directors at that time a lot of credit, because they were pushing really hard to propel the sport and do everything they could to make it a bigger and better sport. And where NTPA, just like NHRA, really did a fine job was the rule-making entity of the business. And one time we had 26 member states that came together so that we could get all the rules the same. So no matter where you went in America, you would be pulling under the same rules, because prior to 1970, that wasn't the case.
And, later on in the 80s, Dave, you went to television there and did quite a few shows, Wheel Power and stuff like that. And, interviewed a bunch of, interesting character. Who was the most interesting person you ever interviewed? And I think I know, but...
Well, there were a number of them. There were, I think there's different kinds of tractors out there, and we were talking about people that have been involved in motorsports. Last night we talked about a unique name of a tractor called Solid Junk, which was David Stengel out of Kewanee, Indiana, northern Indiana. David was very mild-mannered and very soft-spoken, but he had a very unique tractor, and everybody knew the tractor and they knew the name. I think Bruce Hutcherson was a spectacular puller who was not only a good puller, he was really great on the microphone. Mm-hmm. He was great for interviews. Ralph Banner, of course, is a legend in the Hall of Fame, one of the innovative people at that time. Ralph was a great interview, but I look back on people that had been involved in motorsports, and we were really glad to have Art Arfon get in the sport with his turbine-powered tractor.
Absolutely.
Art had gone 550 mile an hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats on a couple of occasions, and he had set the land speed record.
Hey, Dave, Chris has got Marcus Wedelson down trackside. We'll have a quick word with him.
Well, Marcus Wetson came down the tractor, kind of threw his hands up in the air when you looked at me. I know this is a part of tractor pulling, but you've been around it a lot, but describe the emotions right now.
It's just, it felt like it was a pretty good pass, and we're right at the end here where it really needs to count, and, obviously there's going to be more that are going to get ahead of us here, and it's going to be kind of it's going to be really tough on points. I mean, championship's pretty well out of the equation for the year, but it's part of pulling, unfortunately. So anyhow, nothing time and money won't fix. So we'll get it fixed. We'll be back.
Well, I was going to say, do you have something, a bullet you can put in the chassis right away?
Yeah, we got a spare that's sitting there at home, but I know Terry's got some parts, and I don't know. We just got to go home and assess the situation and see how we could get something in there before the end. Really, obviously not before next week, but we'll see what happens. So.
It was a great pass. The ground speed was incredible. I know that doesn't help you right now.
Yeah, it felt good.
All right, thank you. Best of luck to you, Marcus.
Take care. Thank you.
Well, Dave, he still had a smile on his face, so you got to give him props for that. So
yeah, well, that's about all you really can do. If you get real upset all about it, it's just going to make your night that much worse. And they've repaired a lot of equipment in the past. They know what needs to be done.
So we've got last night's winner backing in here, Kyle Carlin, another second-generation puller out of Minerva, Ohio, which is just east here of the Canton area, about a half hour or so. The Bad Blood AGCO DT275. And the amazing part about that, this tractor's only got about 5-6 passes on it. Debuted it in Brandenburg, Kentucky. And it came out last night, laid down just an absolutely picture-perfect pass as he picked up the win here. And let's see if he can do it again. But right now, he's got to go better than 340.03 to do it.
He maybe has moved the sled a little bit left of center. Most of the puller has been running down pretty much the center of the track, but I think he's a little bit left, trying to get a little bit, just moving it 3 feet can make a world of difference. We'll see if it does here tonight in Canton, Ohio.
All right, so the orange one going after the green one here tonight, here in Canton. Well, another nice run there, but it took the long way to get there.
And he had to get on the brakes a little bit. That's going to pull things down a little bit.
The Bad Blood here, Kyle Carlin. We take a good look here at the eyes inside the helmet. And get the numbers in here for Kyle Carlin here tonight. Our number 9 hook out of our 11 here tonight in our light superstock class. So 315 and 95, not bad. Number 4 spot for him. 315 and 95.
We want to make sure that everybody understands that Marcus Whitworth from Coastal Iowa had that problem with his tractor and had the breakage out there. His distance of 284.95 is a good distance. He still gets the distance even though he had breakage. That's a small consolation. The check that he's going to receive tonight is not going to be enough money to fix that engine, of course.
Yeah, so that'll put him in that number 7 spot right there. Dave, go back to, the question I asked you about some of the most interesting people you've interviewed. I was thinking Chris Holdorf, the wild man from Florida.
Well, he was. That was a 2-wheel drive truck, and he was one of the early pullers of that, and he was a crazy interview, and he was a lot of fun to be around, and he brought a lot of energy to the sport. Tractor pulling had gone for many, many years, and I can't come up with the date when we accepted the 4-wheel drive trucks first. Then we came in with the 2-wheel drive trucks. But when the trucks came on board, it took the entire sport to another level. And it's made it a much stronger sport altogether. And Chris was a good one. At that time, we were having a good pulling circuit in Florida. Ed had put that together back in the early 1970s. We had Canadian pullers going down there, a lot of Midwestern pullers. We would go down for about 10 pulls in the wintertime. They loved going to the Sunshine State at that time, and they would travel back and forth during the week and then fly back down there to get their tractors, or they would stay down there for a couple of weeks, and they had places that they could go and work on them and repair. They had a lot of friends in Florida. But the sport was really taking off at that time, and there was good pulling in Florida, but the tracks were a little on the sandy side. We didn't have the power tracks in Florida like we have here tonight in Canton, Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely. Big power track here as we'll back in Cody Chiswick here with the Considered Armed and Dangerous. And, Dave, I go back to the interview you did with Chris Holdorf up in Tomah, Wisconsin, when he mentioned about put a little nitro in the tank, and the crowd just went absolutely crazy, bonkers that day.
Yeah.
But he would do that. He would do that from time to time. And
well, and of course, you need to know, those of you that are watching the show, that there is no nitro being used because it would destroy all of these engines. The drag racers do it, but if you follow drag racing, you know that at the high end of drag racing, with the nitro classes, they literally completely tear down the motor between every run. We could never do this in this sport. It would bankrupt this sport.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, alcohol-powered super stocks here is Cody Chiswick, Considered Armed and Dangerous. Boy, this track tonight throwing them a curveball here.
We are seeing a more difficulty that the drivers are having tonight on the track than we saw last night in this class. And they're getting a good start. The first 100 to 150 feet is going well, and by the time they get down to about 175 to 200, that's when they're running into problems, having to get on the brakes. The front ends are up in the air, they're losing control, and it's cutting down on the distance considerably.
Yeah, we can see Cody in the seat there is definitely not the run he was looking for there. Pretty dejected with that run. As we'll get the numbers in here for him. So starting to wind it down, our lightweight super stock class here. 266 and 99 will be the distance here for Cody Chiswick. 266 and 99. And we saw right there, that's where it upset that tractor. It just sent it into that up and down motion there. And pretty much once that stops, you're pretty much along for the ride.
And we've got an older case pulling a newer Case IH, off the track. By the way, if you've got a moment here, I was out in the pit area earlier today. There's some you talked about this last night with the unique development in the tires. And the tires are very critical on the rear of the tractor. Years ago, they were mainly Firestones, but now we're seeing the new tire called, I believe it's Mitos.
Yes, the Mitos, yep.
Well, it's interesting with that name because I learned it's coming from the Czech Republic. And this blew me away when I was talking to a couple of the pullers. A set of these tires on the rims, ready to go to bolt on to the tractor, is running $20,000. And I asked one of the drivers, when you get tires in the future, are you going to have to pay a tariff? And they weren't sure.
Yeah, and we talked about last night, with those Mitas tires, they come as slicks. So they actually will, groove them and however they want to cut them.
This is completely different than when they had the old Firestones when it came with the big lug on it and you cut it down. Now you have a slick and you start working with that slick and creating that cut in the tire. You want to get as much rubber on the track as possible, but you have to have some lug there to get a bite.
To get up on top of that dirt as we take a look here at Rex Kuhn, going to be our final tractor. Now remember, he's coming on back. He turned down that run of 3:14.94 and looking to take the big win here in Canton. He's done it before. Let's see if he can do it again here tonight.
John Deere, Letter Buck.
Oh, yeah, did he learn something?
It's interesting. In a number of sports, you will see toward the end of the sport, I've noticed this in Formula One when they're doing their television, near the end of the race, people will judge a driver and they'll say, who is the driver of the day? And it's not only the winner, but running the last run in the class. I think he's the last one tonight, right?
Yes, yep, that'll be our last one.
He's the last pull. That was a spectacular pull. And I'm anxious to see what this distance is. But an excellent pull because about the 5 guys that had run previous to him, it had all kinds of problems of bouncing left and right and up and down. And that was a smooth run. Very good.
Yeah, and I always say, you give these pullers another shot at a track, they will get it sorted out. And you can see Rex went to school here tonight. A great run of 3:33 and 93. And for those folks watching here on the free look-in on Facebook and YouTube, we're going to end that after this run here. So head on over to Full Pull Live to watch the whole event and all the events we got going on for the month of August. And we're going to roll right on into September as well at $39.99 a month. So we are going to end that free view here in just a little bit here. The free preview on Facebook and YouTube will be ending.
So the top three tractors look like they're going to be within about 7 feet of each other. It was a good run.
Yeah, once they got everything sorted out here, as Colton Whitworth with the Yield Express did what he needed to do. Came in a half a point, and we'll send it down trackside with our winner.
Who is tonight's winner. Colton, quite a turn of events there. The bad luck for Marcus.